Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Before I ask any questions, I just want to say something. I guess I've said it before, but the process here is just becoming increasingly preposterous. I look out at a president who has specifically said he has litmus tests for his appointees. Specifically said that. And I look out at a very significant machinery of influence that is designed, that has as its purpose to bring the will of ideological and commercial interests into our courts in ways that will follow the wishes of those ideological and commercial interests. And then I see nominees who have the support of that president with his litmus tests and with his disregard for the rule of law, who've been cleared by those very ideological and commercial interests for policy-making positions in the courts. Policy-making enough that apparently this committee is considering no longer honoring blue slips on these. And then we get answers that are hopeless in terms of trying to give us any sense of what those effects will be. You know, Senator Blumenthal has argued in front of the Supreme Court multiple occasions. Before I got here, I used to practice appellate law more than any other kind. I was the Attorney General and U.S. Attorney for my state. I've argued in the Supreme Court. I've argued in the First Circuit over and over again. I've argued before our state Supreme Court. To sit here and pretend that there is no role for people's personal or private views or their social views when they go to the court is just, it's so preposterous as to be silly. And if that were true, then why would the Judicial Crisis Network, whose very job is to try to force that ideological and commercial set of interests onto the court, be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in dark money on behalf of those interests to try to get people confirmed? Both can't be true. And we sit here in this bizarro world in which we're asked to pretend that nominees' personal views and social views have no role and we shouldn't discuss them at all. We're all just going to sit around following precedent, when we know as practicing lawyers that that is not true, and when we know as politicians that the entire machinery that is designed to screen and jam onto our courts nominees who have the right ideology and the right affinity for commercial interests is doing it foolishly, with no possibility of return on its investment, because all we're going to do is sit around following precedent. It just doesn't make sense. And the protocol for answering questions that has developed in this committee makes the committee look preposterous. It makes the witnesses, the nominees, look preposterous. We have got to get beyond this if we're going to have meaningful hearings and not just verbal jousting and gamesmanship. It really is distressing to me that we go through such a procedure here right now and have this pretense that there aren't these massive forces at work to jam ideological and commercial views and interests and points of view onto our courts. We see over and over again nominees that can't say that dark money is a bad thing. Can't say that anonymous, unlimited spending in our democracy is a bad thing. Everybody on the street knows it's a bad thing. The Supreme Court walked away from it and Citizens United. Even the justices who signed off on that wretched decision walked away from at least the dark money part. We couldn't get Judge Gorsuch to say anything about it. Nobody will say anything about it. And at the same time, they also just happen to line up on being anti-choice and anti-gay rights. Now show me the overlap where those two align logically from the point of view of principle. They just happen to almost always be pro-gun. They just happen to almost always be against environmental and safety protections that agencies enforce on behalf of the American public. Over and over and over again. And we're supposed to ignore this pattern? It doesn't make any sense. These hearings are, I think at some level, preposterous, to go back to my original word. And I don't know how you explain the support of the Judicial Crisis Network, Ms. Larson. How on earth you can, on the one hand, be the voice of disinterested neutrality and just going to follow precedent, and at the same time you've got this dark money special interest group pounding away at the Michigan senators to try to get around the blue slip and get you confirmed. What do they think they're going to get for their investment in your candidacy for the court, Ms. Larson? Why would they be spending this money if they didn't see some return? Does it just make no sense at all? Is it a nonsensical effort by them?
Well, Senator Whitehouse, I honestly don't know. I will tell you, I did see that some group ran a commercial. I learned about that commercial when I was in the gym doing my best.
I'm not suggesting that you wrote the commercial. I'm not suggesting that you approved the commercial. I am suggesting that there are big political interests that are powerful enough to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to influence public opinion in your favor. And my question is, what do they want for their return on investment? People don't usually throw that kind of money around for nothing.
Well, Senator Whitehouse, I honestly have no idea. If you look at my record on the Michigan Supreme Court, I think that if you look at it, you will see that in the votes I have cast over the 2 years, when there have been cases in which a corporation or an insurance company was on one side and an individual was on another, those cases have come out about 50-50. So if anybody thinks they are buying something in terms of commercial interests, I don't think my record bears that out.
Well, we'll see if they keep spending the money. Because obviously they think so. It's just the strangest damn thing. My time has expired.